Hello everybody and welcome back to the Tech Guys. Today we're going to give you an in-depth look into CPUs. We have recently been given another computer to use in our videos, so shout out to my uncle. If you want us to post the time-lapse of us taking it apart, we'll, if this video gets over 20 likes. Anyway, on to the video. Cores. Originally, CPUs had a single core. That meant that the physical CPU had a single central processing unit on it. To increase performance, manufacturers added additional cores, or extra processing units. A dual-core CPU has two central processing units, so it appears to the operating system as two CPUs. A different process can be using each core at the same time. This speeds up your system, because your computer can do twice as many things at once. Having an extra core is essentially having an extra CPU, and having more than a single CPU allows multiple programs to run at the same time, ensuring your computer stays responsive, especially while multitasking or performing computationally demanding tasks like video encoding. Most computers now have multi-core CPUs, which is the most efficient option here. Before hyperthreading and multi-core CPUs came around, people tried to add additional processing power to computers by adding additional CPUs. This requires a motherboard with more than one CPU socket. Multiple CPUs are inserted into different sockets. The motherboard also needs additional hardware to connect those CPU sockets to the RAM and other resources. This isn't very common among home PCs today. This is because for gaming it just seems unnecessary. Even a high-powered gaming desktop with multiple graphics cards will generally only have a single CPU. You'll find multi-CPU systems among supercomputers, servers, and similar high-end systems that need to perform extremely demanding tasks. Hyperthreading. Hyperthreading was Intel's first attempt to bring parallel computation to consumer PCs. It debuted on desktop CPUs with the Pentium 4 HD back in 2002. The original Pentium 4 had just a single CPU core, so it could only do one thing at a time, but hyperthreading attempted to make up for that. A single physical CPU core with hyperthreading appears as two logical CPUs to an operating system. The CPU is still a single CPU, so it's cheating a bit, while the operating system sees two CPUs for each core. The actual CPU hardware only has a single set of execution resources for each core. The CPU pretends it has more cores than it does, and it uses its own logic to speed up program execution. Hyperthreading allows the two logical cores to share physical executional resources. This can speed things up somewhat. If one virtual CPU is stalled and waiting, the other virtual CPU can borrow its execution resources. Hyperthreading can help speed your system up, but it's nowhere near as good as having an additional core. If you still don't understand, I don't blame you, it's very complicated, but I found a great analogy which might make you understand. Imagine a worker on an assembly line. There are two types of products coming to her, and she needs to do different things with each product. However, sometimes there is a delay because the conveyor belt is too slow, or because the wrong product was sent at the wrong time. Hyperthreading is like adding another conveyor belt, so there is now one dedicated to each type of product. There is still only one worker, but now products can be brought to her more quickly and efficiently, so she's waiting for work less often. So having hyperthreading doesn't beat getting an extra core. It means that your CPU is never waiting and so runs at the optimal rate.
This is the processor that came in our most recently acquired computer. It's a 95-watt Intel Pentium D. It has two cores and a clock speed of 2.8 GHz. It has 2 MB of cache and has a 64-bit instruction set. Each transistor is 90 nanometers big. Intel prices it at around $74, although we know you can get it for far cheaper from other sites. Due to its low clock speed and only having 2 cores, it's unable to run any high-spec games, although it will run some basic indie. This is the processor that came from the computer we took apart in our first episode. It's the 31-watt Intel Core 2 Duo. It has 2 cores and a clock speed of 1.8 GHz. It has 2 MB of cache and has a 32-bit instruction set. Each transistor is 65 nanometers big. Intel no longer makes this processor, although we know you can get it really cheap on other sites. Due to its pathetic clock speed and only having 2 cores, it cannot run any games above 16-bit graphics, but can run some really basic indie games.
Thank you very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, like, comment, whatever you want. And remember, if this gets over 20 likes, we'll post a time-lapse of us taking the new computer apart. The next video in this series will be on motherboards. As well, we're very sorry for the crazy upload schedule. It is currently the summer holidays, so we're struggling to meet up. Anyway, goodbye.